Shalom, good evening from Jerusalem, Israel. This is Mr. Lowell Joseph Gallen, founder of the Root and Branch Association Limited, established in the United States of God of Israel, bless America, in New York State in 1981, now celebrating our 45th year. Today is Wednesday, January 28th, 2026, in the Gregorian calendar. Since it is after nightfall, it is the onset of the 11th day of the 11th Hebrew Israelite month of Shvat in the Hebrew Israelite New Year 5786. God willing, if we're all alive this coming by Monday, we will have Tu B'Shvat, the New Year for trees. We have several New Years in the Israelite Jewish liturgical calendar, and we greet the New Year for trees with usually the blossoming of the almond trees around the land of Israel, though they're actually trees and flowers, which, because we have so many different climates in such a small country, the size of New Jersey, there's always something blossoming. But when the almond tree starts to blossom, that means springtime is on the horizon. So welcome to episode 40 of our monthly seminar, Ancient Roots Mothering, Roots, Nettles, and Sage. The Madam Co-Chairs of the seminar are three mighty women of the God of Israel. One is with us in spirit. The other two are here as well in person. Mrs. J. Rivka Asulin of the Lower Galilee in Eretz Yisrael, Mrs. Chava Dagan of the Southwest Negev in Eretz Yisrael, and Mrs. Gila Weiss of Florida in the United States, who is with us in spirit. And we welcome our friends and colleagues, Miriam and Lilach from North Carolina and Missouri. As they say, I'm from Missouri, show me, which is, I think, a very good attitude for any of us. Tachlis, please show me. So these marvelous ladies are going to show us, talk to us. They're herbologists. I would say they're from the ancient order of that go back thousands of years in all countries, natural healers. They were called witches. For me, that doesn't have a negative connotation. Natural healers, usually ladies, going back to Eve, our mother, with the secrets that are in the creation for healing pretty much anything. And so it is a great privilege to host such a program. And I want you to support their work. You can do that. I'll have the links below. You can buy. Are you still producing honey down there in the Negev on your farm?
No,
No.
we're doing sheep milk and goat milk.
Fantastic. Sheep milk, goat milk, Leela, they're all producing wonderful things. And it was from Harvard that I learned what I saw with my wife's nursery school for 20 years is a aha moment. What she said was that animals, the children, they almost always have eye contact with mama. And the moment they lose it, they start to bleat and scream. It's the same thing here. My wife was the nursery school teacher. They're all playing very nicely. She'd go to the bathroom. The moment they sense she wasn't there, they all start to waddle to the door. They have to see, like the mama goat, the mama cow. They have to physically, I never forgot it. And also why it's so traumatic for many children to be zooped off to gone at the age of 3. Maybe there's some it's good for, but they really need to be with mama as much as possible. So please support their work. And I'll skip the part about myself because we're starting late. But this is the Henry Dunster College of Jerusalem, Israel. He was the first president of Harvard College, first graduating class, 1642. 9 boys, no co-ed, all courses taught by him. And we were replanting the old Harvard in the New Jerusalem. John Harvard, a nice young minister, idealistic, Puritan, came at the age of 30. They didn't have antibiotics, or they didn't have natural healers like Rivka and Chava to help him. He died, and he dedicated his estate to the college. Remember, this guy got off a boat with 1 suitcase. Don't hold your breath, a few books, but they just did it, and we are replanting it with world-class people, with world-class ideas and world-class activities, such as Rivka and Chava and Gila. And I'm happy to tell you, Our Lady Roseanne, she gives 4 annual talks for us a year. Rosh Hashanah, Hanukkah, Purim, and Passover, we are now confirmed for Sunday, March 1st, should we all be alive by then, for her Hanukkah address, excuse me, Purim address to humanity 5786. And now, without further ado, I'm going to join in the gallery Miriam, Hannah, and Lilach. Ladies, Chava and Rivka, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Lil Aryeh. So we are no longer with our dear friend Gila. Maybe in the future we will rejoin, but thank God Gila has got a very full life. And it's a bit difficult for her to get here with all that fullness for the time
But
being.
she
So
is here. She's here in spirit, and she
she is
always
here in
will
spirit
be, even
all the
if she
time.
goes to the other world.
All the time, but she's not. She's going to be here doing everything all the time, forever and ever, we hope. So I think it was a really great segue, actually, because while we are herbalists, um, one of the things we were talking about before we started recording was the state of the world and some common sense and common sense behaviors and common courtesy behaviors, all of these things which are becoming no longer common. And Lil Aryeh was asking me, well, what do you think's going on? And I said, well, that's what Chava and I are going to teach about tonight, is about how we mother. And I think that's really the source. I think we can turn that around by some conscious mothering and attached parenting with our children. So that's what we're going to discuss today. Today we are having a show I'm super excited about. I like filled up with joy when I went into my closet to bring out the old baby carriers, because we've wanted to do this show for a while, and yeah, thank God, finally we can do it. So we're going to talk about baby wearing, and baby wearing as an attachment parenting tool, which we will talk a bit about, but also as a really practical tool for, as Lil Aryeh said earlier, um, it can be very difficult to have young children at home, especially if you have even younger children at home. And it's a great way, another type of tool to be able to function with younger children, but still kind of have your baby or toddler wearing them on your body so that you can make food or wipe little kids' noses or bottoms or go to the bathroom, or all of those things that can make parenting multiple young children very overwhelming and leads lots of mothers to go and seek help. So on that note, I'm going to bounce it over to Chava and we'll jump right in.
So another I don't know how to say it, aspect of mothering is feeling alone, feeling overwhelmed, feeling too busy to do any self-care, if you even want to call it that. Exercise, the simplest, get a fresh breath of air. So thank God I would put my babies on me, strap them, and I would go hiking. I would go out. I would go for a walk. I would go for a bike ride. I even put the baby, I had one on my back and one in the basket. And we would go for a nice bike ride out in the fields. And it changes your whole, you feel like, oh, it's just you're so focused on mothering. And then sometimes you forget that you need you need to go out, you need to get some sunshine and fresh air, and the children need it too. um and so for me, my baby carrying, that's what did it for me. That's what got me through the day. It's like strap them on and go out, just go out. So yeah, we want to talk about the rights and the wrongs, because there's a wrong way to do it and there's a right way to do it, so that your body can last and build strength, because you are actually holding another human being, not on the inside anymore. Now it's on the outside. So your back and your hips and your shoulders and the muscles and the alignment of your spine and all of these things can get out of whack if you're doing it incorrectly. Um, and we want to talk about all the benefits and so much more. So, yalla.
Okay, well, first things first, what is baby wearing? So you've probably seen people put a baby on their body. It's basically like you could, have a baby on your front that's somehow attached to you, or on your back, just like as if you were giving a child a piggyback ride, but with some kind of material helping hold that child to you. And what's the benefit of the material? Why have a wrap at all? Why not just hold a child in your hands, or say, hold on to my neck and I'll piggyback you around everywhere? Well, form wise, it can be really rough on the body. On the back, having the closer that a baby is tied to your body, the more support you have. And material can actually create layers of support for different areas depending on how you wrap or tie that material. So you can really make the areas of support tailor made to your body, and then change them as your baby gets bigger and changes size and shape and all of that. And on the front, of course, you need to use your arms. And if you're using your arms, you can't do other things. So thank God we both have a lot of children. And for many, many years, we always had a baby with other children together. And so the other children need things while you still have a baby. They need fed, they need, showers, they need to go to the park, they need to go on a hike. So having your hands free makes it actually possible to do things like make home cooked healthy meals. In fact, when I think about it, I've actually spoken with women who, they were giving their kids like pita with chocolate on it over and over and over, and having very malnourished families because they were saying, well, I don't have time. I always have a baby in my hands. And when I think about it, I don't think I could have spent all that time preparing healthy meals for all those years if I couldn't use my hands, if I always had a baby in arms. And the amount of tension in the shoulders and the neck and the back would have been absolutely unbearable. So the structure and actual physical support of having a cloth to tie the baby and position the baby well, because babies can get wriggly. So I guess one thing we should start with is the position of a baby when you wear a baby on the front and also on the back. So I have a doll because I don't have any small babies. This is our half bald doll that my mother actually made for the kids a long, long time ago. But you want the baby's position, and I took my background off of the back so that the camera will pick up everything. But when you have a baby that you're wearing, you want the head of the baby, and this is super important, to be positioned high enough on your chest so that you can kiss the head. A lot of times, when Chava and I were wearing our babies in Israel, we were seen as super weird and unsafe and possibly negligent parents. Now it's kind of in vogue. A lot of people enjoy wearing their babies, which is great. But one of the things I see is babies carried really low down, like down here. And you can't kiss their head and they're really low down. Why does it matter? Because the center of gravity and muscles and tension in your body, you can lessen it the higher up the baby is. The lower the baby is, it's actually pulling more on your back to carry that weight lower down. And it's not long-term sustainable to have a baby that low. However, I have spoken with quite a few men that do like to carry their babies a little bit lower than women do, typically. And say that that's more comfortable for them. So there may be a different center of gravity and muscular structure with men that we should take into account. Same with the back. If your baby is on the back, okay, I would take my baby and kind of flip them over and lean forward, and I would keep their head right up by my neck when I would tie them. If they were too low, I could lose them. And when they were lifted up, it was usually very stressful on my hips and on my back, and I was in pain. But when I wore my babies really high up like that and strapped them, held them tightly in place higher up, they were right by my ear. And so I could hear if they were getting upset. I could talk with them. I could even, in my peripheral vision, look over and have conversations with my babies and include them in my day. And I would cook and I would say, hey, look, I'm putting in, the gravy now and whatever. And I would bend to the side and let them see, so that they were very involved in in the day, and they were always engaged, and I was building a relationship with them. Okay, Chava.
Okay, so the way that you were holding your baby is also face in. And I see a lot of people turning them around, and then the baby, yeah, is facing out. So many, many problems with this. One is that they do not curve to your body because they're splayed out rather than turned around and going with the shape of your body and their body. Another is overstimulation. When they're looking at us and taking the world in and watching our expressions and watching and listening to our voice and talking, and they perceive the world through us. We are a filter. When they're turned around and they're first before us, they can't see like what we're doing, what we're saying, our facial expressions. They can't feel the heartbeat right next to their heartbeat, and they are looking at the world without a filter. And it is overstimulating. It is scary. It's stressful, and they have no bouncing back and forth that they need with as they're turned around and facing us first. So I see a lot of people doing this, and they're shopping and they're whatever, and the child unprotected. That's how they would feel, and it creates a feeling of untrust because they have no one there. They feel that way, that they have no one there protecting them, guiding them, um, and filtering the world for them. So it's not too much. It's overstimulation. It is lots of stress, and it's very emotional. And so I see most of those babies. Also, you can't see the baby if he has snot running down his nose or there's a fly, bothering him on the. You have no you have no physical sight when he's faced away from you. And so the baby is stressed out, he's overstimulated, he feels unsafe and unprotected, and he's got all these other things going on, and we are unable to help him and care for him and do whatever we need to do when he's not with us. He's out there in the world. So it creates a sort of chain reaction then, because he knows that as soon as he gets strapped in there, all of these emotions and triggers and everything else are released for him as a little baby. And then that carries on into the rest of his life, whether it's unconscious, whether it's tiny and it's in the back of his head. These are the things that we want to try and build a foundation with our children. And here we've lost that completely. And so it creates a situation where he's already stressed. As soon as he sees that the carrier come out and he knows he's going to have to get in it. Yeah, so never a good idea.
Yeah, we're basically trying to mimic how we would carry a baby in our arms. So you don't carry a baby in your arms face out. Nobody does that, right? I was modeling earlier, but if you're standing with your baby, you don't usually just kind of have you're turning your baby into you and cuddling your baby and facing in. So we're just trying to support the Hashem's design for how a parent would naturally hold their baby. We're not trying to use that as a tool to disconnect from the child. We're using it as a tool to greater connect. So the first type of carrier that I would always use with my newborns was a ring sling. So there's lots of different types of carriers. I'm going to pull out my ring sling, and actually, I just want to remember a friend right now. This was made for me. If you can see, this is Lowell Aryeh knows what this is because he was just talking about this. This is the Tolkien map for Middle Earth, and my friend made this for me. My friend Miriam Greenman, who actually used to sell them and may still sell them. She was known as Little Green Men on Facebook. It was www.facebook.com/Little Green Men. And I also want to remember her son, who she recently lost, Shachar, who was a wonderful, special little boy. So she made this sling for me. And the way you use a ring sling is it's basically an open piece of material, okay, with a, just an open end. And one end is sewn up in with two very strong rings. And if you're making your own, you want to make sure that you have rings that actually can bear a lot of weight.
Rivka,
Yeah.
would it be all right to ask what happened to Shachar?
I think it's a personal thing, but
Okay, well,
yeah,
Baruch
but he
Dayan
did
on
pass.
that is
Thank you.
as Theoden says in The Lord of the Rings, parents shouldn't be burying their children. And then he
It's true.
cries because his son is killed by an orc. Please continue.
It's true. And his memory should be for a blessing. Wonderful, wonderful boy. Um, so the ring sling, what we learned early on, because in the early days when we were wearing our babies, and we were definitely there were generations before us, but not in Israel. I think we were kind of the early generation for baby wearing. But when we were making our own slings, we would be getting rings that couldn't bear weight. And so what was happening is once we put toddlers into these types of carriers, the rings would bend open, and that of course is dangerous. You don't want that. So they need to be rings that can bear weight. And basically the first time you use it, you wrap it around your body so that the rings are over. I used to like them over my dominant hand's shoulder, so my right shoulder, because I'm right-handed. And you take the tail and kind of scoop it up and you feed it through the rings like so. So we have the two rings. I would pull the tail through both rings together. Then I would separate the rings and I would thread the tail back over the first ring and through the second ring. And that's it. It was pulled together. And so I could, by lifting up, I could loosen and get a baby out. And then I could just take it and tighten. I never had to do that after the first time. I could take it off like that. It was already put together for me. So I could just quickly grab my ring sling when I had a crying baby or I needed to move really fast. I'd flip it over my head and one shoulder. I'd grab the baby and put the baby in. Now, different size babies can go in differently. When I had a newborn, which is about this size, the size of this doll, I would again put the head where I could kiss, up high, up by my neck, and then I would wrap around the baby, and I'd try and get the bottom part of the ring sling right under the butt of my baby, and the top, for especially a very small baby, would go right at the base of the neck. And then I would take my ring sling and I would tighten. So here, you would just pull and tighten. And then you can actually tighten the bottom rail or the top rail by pulling a little on here. You can see where that it's tightening the top, or I could pull the bottom of the tail and tighten under the bottom, if you can see that. So I could actually tailor make the fit of this ring sling by where I pulled on the material in the ring. The next part is to make sure the ring would go right on the little bend so that my shoulder was cuddled, like cradled, and the ring sling would go right, I would say, if this is my shoulder, right where my shoulder meets my chest is where I would position the ring. That would make it most comfortable for me. And as you can see, I'm hands-free and I have my baby right in the front. As the children got older and bigger, I'm releasing this to get more space. I could hold a child on my hip as if they were sitting on my hip, so with their legs around me, just as if I were holding them on my side. But I would get the tail right under the butt. Usually they can support their own heads when they're toddlers, so just get it to their high or mid back, and then pull the ring sling, reposition the rings, so the shoulders cradle, and you have your child on your side. And I could even wrap my arm around, but I could also use the arm and I could do things I could grab in front. So I'll let Chava jump in here, and we should probably talk about nursing here too.
Yeah. So I also have my little doll. He's my little cute baby, just like my little other monkeys that I have. So this is a very similar version to that. It's got it's sewn. This was made by Suri Provisor in Shiloh. She actually weaves, so she wove this entire beautiful piece of material. And it also has a ring sling. It's very small, so it has like not a thread, but a smaller piece of material that goes in it. It's separate from the actual sling. And it also just went over my shoulder, and it's already ready in my position. And then I just stick my little cute baby in there, and it's cuddled on his butt. Turn around, Mr. Monkey. Yeah. And then, yeah, so it cuddles him and it goes right underneath him. His little legs are sticking out. And what I love about this is it really just holds him, and it's so comfy, and they just fall asleep. They fall asleep right here on my shoulder. And then I can do everything, and the sling is holding completely the baby, feels my heartbeat, I feel his breathing, everything happens. But because it is a lovely piece of material, also Rivka's, it's a perfect cover up for breastfeeding. So I would just slid the baby around wherever it's comfortable when it's time to nurse, and then he's already right in there, and I just pull this around his head like so, and then he goes and nurses, and none of me is exposed. And then when he's done, I get myself back together, and he's already there, and he's comfortable, and he's just with me. So basically for hours and hours at a time until he needs his diaper changed or something. And it also, by the way, when I take it off, again, it's a piece of material, and it's beautiful, lightweight, um, and I can lay it down as like a little sheet or a blanket and change the baby's diaper if I need to. Lay him down if I'm in the park or at the US Embassy where it's all cold and, whatever. I had to do that many times. So I use it as a blanket. I use it on top. I use it as a mattress. I use it as a cover up. I use it. I mean, these things are so versatile, and I don't do anything to it. I don't undo it. It stays that way. But just by itself, I'm able to do so many things and hold the baby, and he's super comfortable and right next to me.
Do you want to move on to maybe a soft structured carrier now?
Okay.
I have, and I maybe you'll start with this one, and I'll just show mine at the end. But soft structures are they're all buckled. Okay, so the May ties or the wrap straps we'll get to in a bit. But a soft structured carrier is like what Chab is showing us. Does yours also have buckles on the sides too?
There's no buckles. It's all
Okay.
tie. Yeah.
Okay, so that one that Chava is going to explain is actually considered a May tie. This is an
Right.
example of a soft structured carrier. It's all buckles that can be already set into place, and you don't need to do anything. A lot of new parents I see get these, like, I think they're called snugglies or something, and there you go. Chava's got one, and they prefer these. So Chava has one. Go for it.
Okay, well, I'll just talk about this one first. It's really like a backpack. It has even a little hood that can hold and support the baby's head. It's got this great little pocket so I can put stuff in it. And then it's got these buckles and straps. And so I just slip it. This has been years, people can, since I've done this. But I think my body kind of knows the whole routine. So okay, Rivka talked about this before. First, I take the baby and put him on my back. Whoop, I'm sorry, baby. He's much lighter than a regular baby. And it's got this very thick and supportive waist band, which goes right on my hips. 1 second. And then it buckles right in front. So it's got these nice big buckles like this. And it's so sturdy and they can't break. And then the baby's here. Come on, baby. And then I get his legs on either side so that I can pull it up and then slip on the straps. I don't know if I can do all this with all my winter stuff on, but that's how it works. And then he's just there and he's super happy and healthy. And whoa, I dropped my baby. Normally I don't do things like that, but this little monkey is such a rascal. He refuses to stay put.
These dolls weigh nothing is the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, it's never like that with humans.
Yeah, when you have a baby, a lot of people would ask me, and we had a question in the chat about when can you begin to back carry. And so what's considered safe is once a baby can support his own head. Okay, his neck can support his own head. However, I have to say, depending on my carrier, because I would use wraps, I could get the babies up there as brand newborns within a few days. But we'll get to the wraps in a bit. But people would ask me, well, how do you get a newborn on your back? And for one, I got a very flexible spine after practicing this through all the kids. But I would take my baby and I would bend forward as I could. And I would take my baby with one arm across, if you can see, and I'd grab the other arm and I'd kind of hoist them onto my back while reaching over with my backhand. Again, you want their head up here. And so if they were wriggly or something, they're still tiny and you can still hold them and support them. So I would have them supported with my hands when I would do my wrap, and we'll get to a wrap in a bit. But for what Chava's showing, again, that was really simple. I wouldn't even put the baby back there until, like Chava showed, I had already strapped my baby in. This carrier, by the way, it's fun to say who made the carriers too, because we've had friends who made them or made them ourselves. This carrier was made for me by Malky Ramon, who's been on our show and discussed Jungian coaching, like archetypal coaching, which she does. And you can find her on LinkedIn. So as you can see, once it's tied around my back, the arms of this are already closed by buckles, and I could just flip the arms up and put my arms through. And like Chava said, very large buckles that I preset. And once I set them once, they're set for life. I never have to unbuckle them. I would just flip it up over my back when I needed to. But how I would take a small baby is just what Chava showed. Once it's secure and you put your baby on, then you reach down with your hands. And as soon as you flip this up, the baby is already supported because of this bottom strap. And you don't have to worry about the baby falling out. So
Also, after you've done it, a few times, the babies get really good at they know to hold on to your neck, whatever, and they support themselves with their knees, like they're kind of squeezing like you do in a saddle. And so they're already preparing themselves for it. It's like a fun little ride. And we would do this little thing where I would just swing them around and then they'd be on my shoulder, and it was, it's all fun, and they get really good at it, like little circus tricks and things.
Yeah. We should note that a soft structured carrier like this would not be safe for a newborn to carry on your back. On your front is different. But the base is too wide for a small baby. So we'll talk about how the baby should be sitting in an M shape soon. But it's too wide. You'd have to scrunch up the material, and a newborn baby's legs won't fit through. To wear a soft structured carrier on the front, it's the same kind of thing, except you close the hip belt behind you, and then you set the baby in, facing in. You start making sure that head is right at your neck where you can kiss it. And again, this baby would be too small. This would be, for a larger baby who could have enough leg space. Or you can tuck up the legs inside but it wouldn't go out of the carrier for a newborn. And so I would just flip over the straps, and now the baby's attached to me here for a slightly older baby. So you can do that in a front carry as well. Okay. Let's do the carrier that you had before, Chava. Let's do it.
Okay. So yeah, this is called a Mai Tai, and it's the same thing. It's a little kind of backpack area. It's all just soft, lovely material. The very top is more supported, so that because you are going to be holding a little baby. And there are no buckles on this. Absolutely not. Look how long the strings are. It just keeps going and going and going and going and going. Because what you're doing is wrapping everything around and then tying it. So you have to have enough to tie it. So you can use it on your front and you can use it on your back, either way. And once you've done it a couple times, you just get really good at it. So first, you're always going to support on the bottom. And so you can just wrap it around, tie it in the back. Or if you're going to do it from over here, you would tie it in the front. And second, let me get it all situated. Okay, so that's super everything. Okay, yes. Okay, so here's the strings. And you just get really good, obviously, after doing it for a while. You tie it with a nice, secure knot, right? And then you've got these. So the baby, again, would be on your back. And you pull this up over them, or on the front, same thing. And then you cross so that it's nice and supported. Wrap it around the baby's rump, and his little legs are going to be sticking out. Where's my monkey? And then you're going to tie it again. So it's a bunch of ties, and you want to make sure they're very secure so that nothing by accident unties. But then the baby's on the back, and it would do it the opposite when it's on your back, but you get very good at all these tying. And again, the front is for newborns. The back is for when they get a little bit older. You tie it from the bottom. The baby's sitting right here, and this is supporting his neck and his head. And then you're going to wrap this and cross. I haven't done this in a while. You wrap it and cross it so that it's supporting your back and your shoulders and your neck, and you want all of this good support so it doesn't start, stressing out different pieces of your body. And then again, you're going to tie it. And now baby's sitting right here, and he's super comfortable. This thing is so soft. And what I loved about it so much is that there are no buckles. There are no rings, and all of those things have their place, but these are just soft and comfortable, and you can wash them and they don't get broken, they don't wear out. It's just these very thick pieces of material so that it can handle anything. It can handle being washed 100 times, put on and taken off 100 times during the day, and it lasts for years. This one was called Baby Hawk, I think.
Oh yeah, I remember Baby Hawk.
Yeah?
I really like your international breastfeeding symbol on there
I,
too. Because I remember when Mothering Magazine, which was it was an attachment parenting magazine that's now defunct, but it had been going strong since maybe the 60s or 70s. Amazing, amazing magazine. They ran a competition for all of us readers to design the international breastfeeding symbol, and that was the winner that was chosen. And of course, it was adopted all over the place and really took off. So when I would help people in those days with baby wearing, they would freak out about, if you can just see how long Chava was trying to show these straps. I mean, they just drag on the floor. They're probably, well, let's see, taller than me, longer than I am. So they're very, very long. Probably 5.5 feet or more of arm strap, very, very long. But some people just got very nervous about all this tying stuff and everything. And so this carrier, which was made by my mother, actually, incorporated a buckle at the bottom so that that bottom tie was kind of an easy, secure thing to do. So again, just like in the soft structured carriers, you would tie this around and buckle. However, this one had a nice feature because for a small child, the space between the legs of a baby is very narrow. And so this one you could scoot in on each side to make that area more narrow so that a smaller baby, because basically their legs are coming over the sides and this is going in their crotch area between their legs. And we could get that tied up, pretty tight. I remember in looking for material for this, and Chava is probably definitely more of an expert than I am, but we were looking for something strong, something like canvas or a cotton or some kind of natural fiber, but something that was very secure. And when Chava talked about how soft these are and how you could just throw them in the wash, these buckles are, washing machine safe. The rest is normal material, just like washing your clothes. And the more you use it and you tie with it and wash it, the softer they become. So, so this was one thing I used. And then, of course, I had this made from a woven wrap. Same type of deal, except it was made from a woven wrap. So you can see will curl up very small. It's very soft and can get really tiny. And that means the more tiny you can crush up your material, the smaller the baby you can put in it, because you can tailor make it to a little tiny body. So this woven wrap also had a buckle at the bottom, and then these long, long ties that you would wrap around as Chava showed. The advantages of a woven wrap are many, and Chava can talk about it because she's the expert in this. To any kind of soft structured carrier, they're just much more comfortable, and you can really kind of pull and tailor every little bit of material to fit how you want it to fit. But I'll let Chava go into that. But I just wanted to say that we would do clever things like put a little pocket on the bottom of the ties so I could leave with just this and put my wallet or a cell phone or something like that. And I even had this little key ring inside the pocket that would fit inside the pocket so I could put my house keys on it, or, we never used pacifiers or anything, but you could find a way to attach whatever you need, and that would just kind of stuff in the pocket. So this was like having the Rolls Royce of baby carriers, because you got a little pocket and it was a woven wrap, and it was so great. So maybe Chava, you can talk a bit about wovens before we go into the wraps.
Well, that's what I have. Is this one is from Suri. It's woven. It's just so, oh my goodness. Yeah, it really is the luxury of the luxury. It's so soft and so special, and because it was made by hand, it's just another level, a whole nother level. But one thing I never used, and I see a lot of people use, is that, I don't know, Rivka, if you have what you're talking about, the long, stretchy, it's like from Lycra or something, and they just wrap around and wrap around and wrap around and wrap around and wrap around. It's super, super long, like, and then they tie it in the end. And so baby is just basically secured by all of these wraps and wraps and wraps and around your shoulders and whatever. I never used one of those. Yeah, yours is woven, but there's also the stretchy,
Yeah, so the stretchy ones I found were only good for really newborns. The benefit of them being stretchy was that you could see every curve of your baby's body. It would get so close. But the disadvantage, of course, is because it's stretchy, it's pulling and stretching on your shoulders, on your neck, on your back. And so you're having to carry more weight on your body. Whereas a woven wrap, which is exactly as it sounds, it's woven from woven materials, and it can be from different materials. It can be from cotton or wool, or gosh, what was that? Was that synthetic one that they had from old plastic bottles? Viscose or something? That they were recycling old plastic bottles and they would turn it into fibers. This one, uh, gosh, I forget. This was such a popular company too. It was called an Indio, and then they said that that was cultural appropriation or something, changed the name. But it was this whole line. I forget the company. If you know the company, write it in here. Of beautiful wovens. And this is so thin. I mean, it's so soft and thin. And it was just great for the hot weather. Because when you do many passes and you keep, because you wrap over and over and over onto the baby's back, you don't want to be bathed. It's like wearing layers of clothes. So the more breathable and light and airy you had, it was easy to carry all this, I mean, it's huge, it's at least twice my size, this piece of material. And I've also used bed sheets and things like that, but it's easier to kind of navigate a material that isn't heavy. And what I would do was, again, I would wrap baby, get the baby over onto my back, put the head up by my neck, and then I would pull the carrier, the wrap, I'm sorry, up over the baby, up to the neck, and I'd hold it in place in front, like so. And then I would get it up. Now, usually the babies were bigger, but for a newborn, I could do it like that. And I just kind of tailor it up under the baby. But once I was holding the bottom and the top, I could stand up with the baby, because if the baby was small enough, because I was holding all the weight. Of course, if they were bigger, I couldn't stand up yet. And then I could just start to wrap. And there were all kinds of different wraps. If it was a crisscross, or you could go up over the shoulder and bring it down between the legs. There's all kinds of tutorials online about how to wrap these. But you can also carry on the front just the same as Chava showed. So you put your baby on, take the wrap, get the baby secured. The bottom rail, I guess, goes under the bottom, the top goes at the neck. And then you take it in your back, crisscross. So now it's secure. Bring it up over your shoulders. Okay, and then I could turn it. They would do this little twist, or we would do this twist, just as extra protection from the ties. We would take this under the baby's bottom, the baby's butt. We would take this and just do, I think it was called a Lexi twist. You would take it and just do a twist, just like that. And then you'd bring it around back and do a double knot. So that if this, for some reason, came undone, you'd have another extra minute before it came here, and then it would have to, go undo this part here if anything went wrong. But they were very, very secured. When tied in a double knot, they're very secure. And for contrast, I have another woven that was much thicker. So this is like a big blanket. Again, the thicker the wrap, the harder it is to wrap a newborn. But this was my wrap, like this, and it's like a big, thick blanket. And while it's reversible, as you can see, they have beautiful styles. This kind of beautiful tree, which is my symbol for Ancient Roots Israel. And in the wintertime, this was great because you'd have a baby and you'd have so many layers. So there's usually a little tag in the middle of every wrap that shows you where the middle is, because there's so much material here. It's hard to know the middle. So you would line up that little tag with the back of the baby's neck and do your same ties across, just as we did. Bring it over the shoulder, and you could carry your baby that way. And if you had extra tail room, you could make another pass and bring it over the baby. There's all kinds of different ways to wear in a wrap, I would sometimes, when I would wrap on the back, I would pass under the arms. So I would make almost like a backpack. And then I'd have the tails go out and over so that everything was above my breasts and up. And I was carrying the weight on the top part of my body. And I wasn't, none of the weight was on the lower half of my body, which was very helpful. Chava, do you have a regular wrap, a woven wrap?
Um, no, I don't have a wrap. I don't know. I think I used to. I don't know. Maybe I give it to someone or something. I don't have one anymore. But what I liked about those, is that you really just don't take it off all day. The lighter ones. I don't know about your heavy one, but the lighter ones, it was just kind of your wardrobe, and the baby went in or the baby went out, and then you put him back in, and then you change his diaper, and you put him back in, and then and he was in and out all day. But this thing just stayed on me all day, and so I don't even have to worry about untying it, tying it, putting it out each time because your baby's on and off all the time. But he could stay inside as long as he's sleeping or comfortable or whatever. And even when he's out, it just stayed on, and then you continue your day, and it becomes your wardrobe basically.
Yeah. Now, I want to say that while carrying my babies like this helped me be able to read their cues for a lot of different things, we can talk about EC. Um, it's not a foolproof, your back will never suffer kind of situation. Um, but I can say that when I was carrying one baby at a time, and like Hava said, it would stay on all day. Um, but you also need breaks. You need breaks for your own body to be able to set the baby down. Um, in the in the end, my last three children were born 3.5 years apart. So I was actually I would use a wrap that one wrap, when the babies were young, I could tie one to my back and use the tails of that wrap to tie my newborn to my front, all with one wrap. So I'd have one on my back, one on my front. And then I would use the trusty ring sling and I would put that over my head. So I had a baby on the front, a baby on the back. I would just bring this down underneath the newborn's bottom, and I'd have another one here on my hip. And so I had one, two, three babies on me at all times. This lasted for about a year and a half. And it really wasn't wonderful for my body. There was a lot of wear and tear. However, that was how I managed because I didn't have any family. I didn't have anyone and I wanted to have the babies close. So, I don't recommend that. I recommend carrying one, maybe two at a time, but always limiting, making sure that you get breaks for your own body because I did do permanent damage to my body. It can lead to organ prolapse, hemorrhoids, all kinds of things that you would find with anyone who's carrying a lot of extra weight. If this person is obese or a weightlifter or whatever, just carrying extra weight for years and years on end, this also counts as carrying extra weight for years and years on end, and that can take its toll on your body. So a word of caution there. Chava, do we want to talk about EC too, or you want to add to that?
Um, yeah, it all needs to, I mean, that's why we're doing this, so that you can do it safely. Uh, we are very connected to and concerned with our young ones, which is important, but never to forget our own bodies and its limitations. And you know, we need to be able to put them down, or when the third one wants to come up, we say no. Sometimes you have to learn to say no because, yeah, we need to think about our own bodies. That's very important. Yeah.
Can I add something here? In Anne of Green Gables, a story our girls grew up on, the book and the film or TV series is film series. Uh, Anne is adopted by Melissa and her brother. What's his name? And he dies of a heart attack in the fields, and she finds him there. And before he dies, he says to her, "My body grew old and I didn't know it." Well, whether you're young or old, or Jesse Owens, Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's important for people to recognize we all have limits. Even if you're Godzilla and King Kong, every created being has a limit. And to work within those limits, because if we don't, we're no good to anyone else. So when the prophet Jeremiah, God says to Jeremiah, says, "Let not the wise man rejoice in his wisdom, and the strong man rejoice in his strength, and the rich man rejoice in his riches, but let those rejoice who fear me and observe my commandments." God isn't saying you should be stupid, poor, and weak. He's saying that these are gifts from me to you to use to make my world a better place. So what you ladies are saying is, especially, I once said to my mother something about overachievers risk burnouts and crashes. And she didn't like the term overachievers. She said, let's just say achievers, people who want to do stuff. It's good, but we don't know how to pace ourselves or set limits. And a good example for that is Elijah fleeing from Jezebel. He's on his way to Mount Horeb. Twice he stops and lies down and goes to sleep. The first time the angel wakes him up and says, here's bread and a cruse of water, baked bread and some meat. And it says the ravens brought them to him. He goes to sleep again. The angel says, the way is too far for you. And he again eats and drinks. And in the strength of that, he travels. This is not something I recommend to normal people, unless you're a Tibet monk or something. 40 days and 40 nights, he goes nonstop to Mount Horeb. So whether, especially this is hard for mothers to pace yourselves and recognize limits, especially right after the birth. And I'm just giving free old guy advice, which is that we should all, at any age, you can, whatever you are, a champion lifter, a champion ice skater, a champion mother, super mom. I have these cups I bought, one I bought from my older daughter. This is it. It says, "I am woman. I am invincible. I am exhausted." And there's a shop that's all run by ladies, Barbara Shaw and Emma Rephaim Street. It's an all-girl production, all the workers, the staff workers, and she makes the ideas and designs. It's all girls. I am woman. I am invincible. I am exhausted. My mother said, I have to get that for your sister's girls, all of them, pronto. That's my 2 cents in the Peanuts Gallery.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a common theme and absolutely true. I had a neighbor after I had, I don't know, maybe my sixth or seventh baby, and she came over and she said, she had had 12. And she
Well,
said, yeah. And she said, whatever you do, you cannot walk up and down stairs and hold your baby. You cannot do it. And my second cousin from B'nai Brak, my only family here, she told me the same thing, that in B'nai Brak, they tell all the women, you cannot be walking up and down stairs at all until, your baby has a Brit or in the second or third week or beyond. Because it has to do with kind of keeping everything going, but the muscles and all the structure of the pelvic area going back to its original shape and not
right.
messing up the healing process of that. The great thing about wraps is that you can also use them to do what's called belly binding. And I would use this after the babies were born, is you take the wrap and you basically crisscross and wrap your belly. There's tutorials for this online, but it helps move the tissues
Mm-hmm.
back together, move the muscles back together and support your body. And I would use that especially as I got older and with later pregnancies. And I would use it also to support my pregnancy. I would wear the wraps out as extra support to help hold up my belly. Because I went for like 15 years just constantly pregnant and
Mm-hmm.
and not having a break. So I think EC is worth talking about. That's probably its whole
What
own
did you say,
show.
EC? Say that again.
EC stands for elimination communication.
Meaning,
And so this is basically when you are listening to your baby's signs for when they're ready to use the toilet or when they're ready to
okay, okay.
go to either urinate or defecate. And so I did do this with one of my kids, and he was fully potty trained by the time he was 8 months old. No accidents, no diaper needed. Everything was clear. And but then, of course, he got sick and ran into a bout of diarrhea that lasted for
Uh,
weeks. And then when that happened, we went right back to square one. And I said, you know what? If that's going to happen anyway, I'm going to be much easier about this. And so, what I did in general was paid attention to my children's signs. I also put them in cloth diapers. If I could get them to the bathroom,
right, right,
I
right,
would. And if not, I wouldn't beat myself up because I had a lot of children, thank God.
right. Now,
But when you're wearing your baby close to you, you can
yes.
pick up on those little cues. So when the baby starts getting antsy or fidgeting or starts to bear down to go to defecate, you sense that and you can go, oh, you need to go poopy on the potty. And you're saying the words and you're helping your child have awareness about what's going on in his body or her body. And so you're kind of tying it all together. Um, and then actually physically taking your child to, a lot of people would do this on the sink when their babies were, newborns or a few weeks old or whatever, just hold them over the sink or something.
Yes.
um, but yeah,
Uh,
so this was also very helpful and instrumental in helping me clue in to when my baby needed to use the toilet or needed to nurse. So
now,
I would always tell people my baby's never cried to nurse because I always
wow.
picked up on their early signals
Right.
and was able to take care of it right away.
So I want to ask you ladies a question for the ladies out there, and then tell you a very short story related to limits before I'm now a repentant sinner in the sense that I was never very good with punctuality, beginning programs on time and knowing when to end them. So for the sake of viewers and listeners out there, and on the advice of our unofficial academic dean, Mrs. Charlene Matha of South Carolina, who was Assistant Dean of Students at California State University, and try to keep the recorded programs now within an hour format. So we're coming to the end of that time. And now there's my question for you. Uh, for the mothers out there, it just seems to me common sense. Bodies need to breathe. When a child goes to sleep or an adult, uh, you don't want to have them all bundled up in snowsuits and stuff because the body needs to sweat and breathe, and it can actually, if they overheat, you could die. I think that's true. So especially in the winter, you put them to sleep in the stroller, get them out of the snowsuits, get them out of everything other than the diaper. The bodies have to breathe, and that's also true for older people. That would make sense to me. Is that common sense? What I just said? Is it true? You put the
Yeah, I
babies
mean,
to sleep,
I would, and I'm sure Hava has the same experience. Our babies would fall asleep in these wraps. And so, what we would often do is when they fell asleep, we would just gently take them out and
right?
put them into their bed. I also co-slept with all my children. I did have like a little portable pen type thing in the kitchen area. It was like a crib playpen thing, just a place where I could set little babies down in the kitchen area. But their bed was my bed. And so that's a whole other show talking about how to create a
Right,
safe area for a
right.
child in order to co-sleep. But yeah, I if the child is close to their parents, I never had to dress my kids in super warm clothes when they were in a wrap because my body was helping them
Right.
regulate their body temperature and they were always very warm. If you
Then
look at
another question.
kangaroo care, it talks more about that, about it's called kangaroo care. And there have
Okay.
been lots of scientific studies about that, proving that it's actually healthier and better for premature babies to be carried skin to skin with a parent than to be put into an incubator for warmth and heartbeat regulation and breathing regulation and so on.
It's very interesting that you say that because I mean everything's interesting. When the daughter was the Shunammite woman, the son dies. and the prophet Elisha comes and lies on, he puts his hands on his hands and his mouth on his mouth, and it seems like it's mouth to mouth resuscitation. The text says, but the child's actually dead. So he's infusing energy more than like with us, and the child literally comes back to life. It's the various interpretations. No, he wasn't really dead. He was in a coma, or no, he really was dead. But the importance of the what you said, the contact. Now, another question for you ladies and for ladies out there, anyone about oxygen. We know we're not in the messianic era yet, and there's the air is poison, the food. Okay, well, that's all true. Everything's depleted, and much the oxygen content in the air is too low. But the way things are, putting babies to sleep or children, you want to have an airflow in the room, right? And that would mean, if possible, having a window open or a humidifier. What do you do? Because they're not moving, and all night long, when the body's supposed to be regenerating through sleep, how do you ensure, as much as possible, a flow of oxygen to your kids, especially, God forbid, if they're in a room and there are no windows? And what about when it's very cold in the winter? You want to keep the window open? How would you handle that?
Yeah, we also slept together, and so you're able to regulate body's temperature with your own temperature. I always made sure that there was a window cracked open always. If you're in a room without a window, oh goodness, I don't know.
What's
That's
for a small fee? I'm missing something.
Oh, I was
what.
just responding to a question in the chat.
I
Somebody had
didn't, I'm
written in
sorry, I didn't
saying that
realize
they
that.
wish that they had had a woven wrap. And there are lending libraries all over the US and elsewhere, including Israel. There was one where for a small fee, you can borrow the kind of carrier you want for a very small fee and use it for however many months you need and then return it.
Yeah.
So, for our viewers and listeners, at any age, bodies need to breathe. Let them have the oxygen. Then don't over bundle yourself in blankets and sleeping caps and pajamas. Bodies have to breathe, especially for children. You want a good oxygen flow as much as possible in the room. Did I get it right, ladies?
Yeah, and also natural fibers. All this plastic and polyester
Right.
and
If you
whatever.
can
There's
get them off the kids' bodies, you don't want them breathing, the body breathing in all this as much as possible to detoxify our poison world. And now I'll give
Including
you,
diapers, including disposable diapers, which are full of plastics.
okay, so you recommend cloth diapers. Okay. Now my little story, which is out there in terms of on April 29th, I'll be 70. So a good advice for all you young people at any age, you're never too old to do all sorts of things. So at the YMCA gym where I've started going again, I met an enormous Christian Arab bodybuilder. And I said, Mike, you look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. You're gigantic. So he looked at me and said, well, you've got the basic build. He said, look at that guy at the bar. He's built like a pencil. No matter what he does, not gonna look like me. But you could if you wanted to. So I said, how long is it going to take? He said, well, that depends. If you take steroids, 6 months, but I don't recommend it because 20 years later you might be dead or crippled. Okay, how about the natural? He said 2 years. I said, the tortoise will beat the hare. Speedy Gonzalez can have the steroids. The advice, there's no quick road. Whatever you're trying to do, brain building, body buildings, take the tortoise and not the Speedy Gonzalez road. The tortoise always beats the hare. That's my advice. In anything you do, you want to improve, change, develop good habits. Ladies, does that sound right? Okay. So not here today and gone tomorrow. You may be gone tomorrow. And not overnight you're Haredi and the next day you're in Schenken Street. I actually had a neighbor where that happened with the Mashiach flags and the ultra, 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 and then something snapped and off to Tel Aviv to the Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And what was this? The name of the band, or was it a movie? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll from the 1960s, something like that. It's a very famous band. I forgot. So the slow road is usually better than the fast road for long-term change. You're remapping the neural networks in your brain. You remap all your energy fields. That's my free advice to everybody out there. Don't be Speedy Gonzalez. In the end, you'll get much farther. It's slow and Torah studies, anything. And listen to Rivka and Chava and Gila. And in court, you can't overnight do what they've spent a lifetime learning how to do. You have to do it slowly until it becomes literally, it reprograms the neural networks in your brain and becomes habit in a good sense. So, ladies, would you like to make some concluding remarks because we're coming to the end of our 60 minutes for the recorded section of the
Well,
program?
it's like Treebeard said, don't be hasty.
Right. Uh, we have decided you are not orcs. Okay. And yes, I mean, there is a time in an emergency, like in the emergency room in the hospital, wherever you have to rush. But if it's not an
Absolutely.
emergency, I've been in Israel since 1992. Trouble is here, everything's an emergency. So how do you tell the difference between the real
Yeah.
one? It's not so easy. In a hyper, super, I don't think Israelis could handle it if all of a sudden everything stopped. All of a sudden, all the orcs said, "No, we love you," and they meant it. They were genetically reprogrammed. I think a lot of Israelis would have a nervous breakdown. They can't live without constant. It's like a nicotine, or
Yeah.
I need my daily fix of chaos.
Adrenaline.
They wouldn't be able to
Adrenaline.
handle it. And how do you make the transition
Yeah.
to these are serious questions because these things are happening worldwide now. I
I
don't
think
know
that's
yet.
a good summary of how we should
What?
wrap it up. I think that's a good summary about how we should wrap it up, actually, is that you're building a relationship with your child very slowly.
And with
Wear,
God.
wearing at right and wearing the baby, it takes time learning the cues, learning what different movements of your baby means. It takes time. And when you do that, you're also teaching the next generation to take time and to listen in and move a little more slowly and more thoughtfully. And it really builds the foundation for everything to come. All the problems that we're seeing in society come
Mhm.
right back to this moment when a newborn baby comes out of his mother's body and into the world, and how his mother relates to him, and how the parameters he's given for how he should relate to the world around him, including his mother, but everyone else. It starts right at that moment. So maybe we should end here.
So we
Thank,
want to thank
thank you.
Rivka and Chava and Gila, who is with us in spirit for another inspiring seminar, episode 40 of our Ancient Roots, Mothering Roots, Nettles, and Sage monthly seminar. And God willing, we'll all still be alive in one piece a month from now at the end of February for our next program. And we thank our friends and colleagues from Missouri and North Carolina for joining us. Shalom from the Southwest Negev. What was that you were showing? You were showing a doll or something, Chava?
My
One.
monkey.
What? Your monkey?
Yeah, he was my model tonight.
Oh, hello, monkey. And from the Southwest Negev and the Lower Galilee and Shalom from Jerusalem. Okay, now I